It's review time, motherfucker. So if you guys are familiar with my channel, you may already know that last year during the Halloween season, I reviewed the original 1922 Nosferatu. And if you saw that review, you probably already know that I'm a huge fan of that film. And yeah, it's definitely one of the best silent films I've ever seen. It's one of my favorite silent films, you know, one of my favorite, I would even say horror films, just period, in general. It's just a really, really great movie that I absolutely love. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Nosferatu. I think it's just such a wonderful film, and I have actually never seen, you know, the 1979 remake to Nosferatu, which is Werner Herzog's, you know, reimagining of the film, and I actually just saw it for the very first time a couple of days ago, so I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on that. So yeah, Werner Herzog's Nosferatu. I actually own the film on VHS. I know that's really random as hell, but I do own it on VHS. It's still sealed, you know, factory sealed, not even opened yet, and yeah, so this is Nosferatu the Vampyre on VHS, a film by Werner Herzog.
Nobody cares about my films. For example, what was that?
I'm sorry, this literally just happened when we were standing outside there, camera. And there was a noise, and it was a whiz, and you just said, "I've been shot." You had, look, you're bleeding.
I think here somewhere. Yeah.
Look, I mean, somebody shot at you and created a wound in your abdomen.
It's not significant.
Starring Klaus Kinski and Isabelle Adjani. The film follows a man named Jonathan, who is a real estate agent, and he is sent to Transylvania to try to sell a house to Count Dracula. Yeah, you heard that right. His name is Count Dracula in this film, strangely enough. Even though in the original film his name is Count Orlok, and the reason why his name is Count Orlok in the original film is because the movie is, of course, an unauthorized adaptation to Bram Stoker's Dracula, so they couldn't use the name Count Dracula because, you know, it was technically not a legal adaptation, at the time at least. And, yeah, so they changed his name to Count Orlok, but in this movie they call him Count Dracula, which is a bit strange, but, you know, okay, whatever. So Jonathan travels all the way to Transylvania to try to sell this house to Count Dracula, and, you know, of course, he learns that Dracula is a vampire. You know, he's some creepy-ass dude with these fangs, and he finds out that he sleeps in a coffin, and it actually turns out that Count Dracula has a little crush on Jonathan's wife, which is kind of the reason why, you know, he wants to go to live in the house by Jonathan's house so he can be with, you know, his wife and all that other stuff. You know, just watch the movie. Just watch the movie for yourself. I'm sure many of you already know the story of Nosferatu anyway, so yeah, just watch the movie. But yes, I thought Werner Herzog's Nosferatu, by the way, I think this is actually the very first film that I've seen from Werner Herzog. I don't think I've actually seen any of his other movies, but yeah, this is the first I've seen from him. And yeah, I really like it. I thought it was very, very good. Do I think it's as good as the original Nosferatu? No. No, I do not. The original Nosferatu is still very, very dear to me and still one of my favorite horror films of all time, but this movie is still a very, very solid sequel. It's definitely one of the better horror sequels that I've seen, honestly. You know, it's definitely up there. And considering that the original Nosferatu was a silent film, it was very interesting to see the story being told, you know, as just a narrative, where the characters are actually, you know, talking to each other and interacting with each other. Not saying that the original one, you know, they aren't, you know, talking or interacting to each other, but you know what I mean. As a talkie, I've never seen this film, you know, told in this sort of structure, which is interesting. Klaus Kinski did a great job as Count Dracula in this film. He did... Oh, whoa. Why am I all blurry?
My name's Blurry Face, and I carry you.
Klaus Kinski did a very, very good job as Count Dracula in this film. Like, he's definitely one of the best things about this movie. Yeah, his performance as Count Dracula is pretty phenomenal. Not quite as phenomenal as Max Schreck did in the original one, in my personal opinion. I mean, just, the original one is just so much more iconic in just so many different ways. Like, I can't see this movie being better than the original one. You know, when I think of Nosferatu, I just think about Max Schreck, you know, his Nosferatu, because he's just creepy. You know, he's the creepiest Nosferatu that we've ever gotten, and, you know, just his face is like, you know, seeing how tall and slim he is, you know, he just looks like a rodent. Like, it's just... He looks so creepy. And Klaus Kinski as well, he is creepy. You know, he does a good job as playing, you know, Count Dracula in this film, but I don't think he's quite as good, you know, as Max Schreck did with Count Orlok in the original film. But yes, this is the first time I've also witnessed Werner Herzog's direction and cinematography, and I gotta say, it's pretty damn good. Werner Herzog definitely has his own style going on here, and, you know, I've personally never seen a Werner Herzog film, but I was looking at this movie thinking, like, yeah, this looks like a Werner Herzog film. Like, I can't explain it, but yeah, it's just very interesting to see, you know, his reimagining on this whole story. And I think he did a very, very good job, you know, retelling the story, you know, and it's just a very, very kind of creepy, modernized way in a sense. And yeah, I really, really liked it. I really did, but I still don't think, you know, it's anywhere near as great as the original one, but that being said, I still liked it, and I think it's one of the better, you know, horror sequels out there. Okay, so about the vampire being called Count Dracula in the film instead of being called Count Orlok, it says here on the IMDb trivia page that, as this movie was made long after the copyright to Bram Stoker's Dracula had expired, Werner Herzog decided to restore the original names of the characters while still following the movie blueprint laid out for F.W. Murnau's Nosferatu. So, there you go. Basically, the copyright, you know, was expired for the original, or not for the original, for Bram Stoker's Dracula, so they could, you know, use the original names from that book, you know, in this movie. So that explains why, you know, he's called Count Dracula in this film. But I don't know, man, Count Orlok, you know, there's just something about saying that name, just, it sounds ugly and nasty. Like, I don't know, like, Dracula just kind of sounds a lot more clean, you know, a lot more sophisticated, I guess, and Orlok is just like, sounds like something you just puke out, like it's just much more vile. I don't know, shut up. But yes, Werner Herzog's Nosferatu the Vampire overall was good. I liked it. I enjoyed watching it. I actually look forward to watching this again sometime, but like I said, it's nowhere near as good as the original, at least for my personal opinion. I do know people who like this sequel more than the original. I know people who like the original more than the sequel. You know, I guess it just kind of depends on the type of person you are, or, you know, what you personally think of silent films, which, you know, personally I love silent films, so, you know, if you're the kind of person who would get bored by watching a silent film, then chances are you'd probably like this one a little bit more. So, in that regards, I would recommend this one, you know, over the original one if you are, you know, think you'd be impatient while watching the original Nosferatu. But personally, my personal preference is the original one. I just think it's, you know, a much better film overall. It's definitely a lot more creepy, and just, you know, I think it just gets, you know, just the atmosphere right, just overall. And Werner Herzog does create a very, very creepy, sort of macabre atmosphere in this one as well, but I still think that the original one does, you know, a much, much better job at doing that. So, there you go. There's my thoughts on Werner Herzog's Nosferatu. A fairly short, you know, just review on it overall. But yeah, like I said, I've already reviewed the original one, so if you really want my thoughts, you know, on this whole story, then I'd recommend watching that video instead of this one. But this is just my quick, brief thoughts, you know, on Werner Herzog's vision on telling the story. So yeah, overall, I liked it. I'm going to give the film a 4 out of 5. I really, really did enjoy it, and like I said, I think it's one of the better horror sequels we've gotten, you know, I think in ever. Like, it's definitely up there for me. It's a really, really great sequel. But yeah, so yeah, Werner Herzog's Nosferatu, check it out. And that's it, man. That's all I got for Nosferatu the Vampire. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Jacob Palacio. Stay tuned for more Halloween reviews in the near future. Now, I'll see you guys later.